The Palestinian struggle for self-determination is one of the most pressing humanitarian and political crises of our time. For over 7 decades, the Palestinian people have endured displacement, dispossession, and military occupation. This essay will delve into the ongoing humanitarian crisis and political injustices faced by Palestinians, examining the historical context, the realities of life under Israeli occupation, and the role of global powers in perpetuating this injustice. The Palestinian narrative is often silenced or distorted, making it crucial to amplify their voices and understand their experiences through their own words and perspectives. Only by confronting the root causes of this crisis can we hope to find a just and lasting solution. It is a struggle against apartheid, colonialism, and the systematic erasure of Palestinian identity and history. To understand the Palestinian plight, we must first understand the Nakba, the Arabic word for catastrophe. In 1948, over 750,000 Palestinians were forcibly expelled from their homes and lands during the creation of the State of Israel. This mass displacement, accompanied by widespread massacres and the destruction of entire villages, remains a deeply traumatic event etched in the collective memory of the Palestinian people. The Nakba was not an accident of war, but a deliberate act of ethnic cleansing, aimed at creating a Jewish majority state in Palestine. Zionist militias, with the support of foreign powers, carried out a systematic campaign of terror and violence, driving Palestinians from their homes and confiscating their land. The Nakba did not end in 1948. It continues to this day through ongoing displacement, land confiscation, and the denial of the right of return for Palestinian refugees. The Nakba is not just a historical event, it is a present-day reality. Nowhere is the Palestinian struggle more acute than in the Gaza Strip, a densely populated coastal enclave home to over 2 million Palestinians. Since 2007, Gaza has been subjected to a crippling Israeli blockade, described by human rights organizations as collective punishment. This blockade controls all movement of people and goods in and out of Gaza, severely restricting access to essential supplies, healthcare, education, and economic opportunities. Imagine living in a place where the borders are closed, where you cannot leave freely to seek medical treatment, pursue education, or visit loved ones. The blockade has decimated Gaza's economy, pushing unemployment rates to over 50% and driving the majority of the population into poverty. The international community has condemned the blockade as illegal and inhumane, yet it persists. The Israeli blockade of Gaza is not just an abstract political tool, it is a lived reality that inflicts immense suffering on every aspect of Palestinian life. It is a slow and agonizing form of collective punishment that targets the most vulnerable: children, the elderly, the sick, and the disabled. Imagine a child growing up in Gaza, their childhood defined by the constant threat of bombing, the lack of basic necessities, and the inability to dream of a better future. The blockade has also had a devastating impact on Gaza's healthcare system. Hospitals lack essential medicines, medical equipment, and qualified medical personnel. Patients requiring specialized treatment outside Gaza face insurmountable obstacles in obtaining permits to travel through Israeli checkpoints. The blockade is not just a physical barrier, it is a psychological weapon that breeds despair, hopelessness, and resentment. Section 5. War Crimes and Collective Punishment. The people of Gaza have endured 3 major Israeli military assaults since 2008, each more devastating than the last. These assaults, characterized by the disproportionate use of force, indiscriminate bombing of civilian areas, and the targeting of civilian infrastructure, have resulted in thousands of Palestinian deaths, including a disproportionate number of women and children. Human rights organizations, including Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch, have documented numerous instances of war crimes committed by Israeli forces in Gaza, including the targeting of hospitals, schools, and residential buildings. The use of white phosphorus munitions, cluster bombs, and other indiscriminate weapons in densely populated areas constitutes a flagrant violation of international law and a moral outrage. The international community has largely failed to hold Israel accountable for its actions in Gaza. Section 6. The world's silence, complicity, and apartheid. The international community's response to the Palestinian plight has been woefully inadequate. While many countries and international organizations express concern and condemn Israeli actions, these words ring hollow in the face of continued inaction. the international community's failure to hold Israel accountable for its violations of international law and its ongoing occupation and colonization of Palestinian land has only emboldened Israel to continue its policies of oppression and dispossession. The United States, in particular, bears a heavy responsibility for the perpetuation of this conflict. The U.S. provides billions of dollars in military aid to Israel annually, funds that are used to purchase the very weapons used to kill and maim Palestinian civilians. This unwavering support, often at the expense of U.S. taxpayers and national interests, makes the U.S. complicit in Israel's crimes and undermines its credibility as a neutral broker in the peace process. The European Union, while often critical of Israeli settlements and home demolitions, continues to engage in economic and diplomatic relations with Israel, effectively normalizing the occupation. This hypocrisy undermines European claims of supporting a two-state solution and sends a message to Israel that it can continue its illegal activities with impunity. The Arab world, for its part, has been largely silent and ineffective in its response to the Palestinian plight. Section 7. Palestinian Resistance, a Beacon of Hope. Despite the immense challenges they face, the Palestinian people have not given up hope. They continue to resist the occupation and strive for a just and lasting peace. One inspiring example of Palestinian resistance is the boycott, divestment and sanctions, or BDS movement. Modeled after the successful anti-apartheid movement in South Africa, BDS calls for a non-violent global campaign to pressure Israel to comply with international law and respect Palestinian rights. The movement has gained significant traction in recent years, with universities, churches, and even entire countries divesting from Israeli companies and institutions complicit in the occupation. Another form of Palestinian resistance is the steadfastness of Palestinian farmers and villagers who refuse to give up their land despite constant harassment, intimidation, and violence from Israeli settlers and soldiers. The Palestinian people's resilience and determination are a testament to the human spirit's ability to endure even in the face of unimaginable adversity. Section 8. International Law and the Quest for Justice. Despite the international community's failures, international law remains a crucial tool for holding Israel accountable and achieving a just and lasting peace. Numerous UN resolutions affirm the illegality of the Israeli occupation, the annexation of East Jerusalem, and the building of Israeli settlements in the occupied Palestinian territories. The International Court of Justice, or ICJ, the principal judicial organ of the United Nations, issued an advisory opinion in 2004 declaring the Israeli separation wall in the West Bank illegal and calling for its dismantling. The International Criminal Court, or ICC, established to prosecute individuals for genocide, crimes against humanity, war crimes, and crimes of aggression, opened an investigation in 2021 into alleged war crimes committed in the Palestinian territories. The pursuit of justice through international legal mechanisms is a long and arduous process, often met with resistance and obstruction from powerful states. Section 9. A Call to Action, Breaking the Chains of Oppression. The Palestinian struggle for freedom, justice, and equality is a moral imperative of our time. We cannot stand idly by while an entire people is subjected to systematic oppression and dispossession. We must act now to break the chains of oppression and create a future where Palestinians and Israelis can live side by side in peace, security, and dignity. We must demand that our governments hold Israel accountable for its violations of international law and its ongoing occupation and colonization of Palestinian land. We must pressure our elected officials to end military aid and arms sales to Israel and to impose targeted sanctions on individuals and institutions complicit in the occupation. We must also support the Palestinian-led boycott, divestment, and sanctions, or BDS movement, a non-violent and effective way to pressure Israel to change its policies and comply with international law. We must stand in solidarity with the Palestinian people in their struggle for freedom and justice, and work together to create a more just and equitable world for all.